All right, thanks everyone for joining. Want to get started here first of all by just sort of restating the webinar, being focused, of course, on asset management. This title here, Gaining Control of IT Assets, is really going to be the focus of the webinar. But before we jump into the topic of IT assets and the management of those assets, I want to give a little bit of background about Crow Canyon. Maybe you're new to Crow, haven't heard of Crow Canyon in the past, but we've been around for a very long time. It's been almost 20 years now that since the company was founded. And since then, we have focused from starting developing applications on Microsoft platforms. We've focused all of our attention on SharePoint as it was released in early 2000. And since that time, we've developed, first of all, a very deep expertise within SharePoint as well as Office 365. Today we service a global community, almost 6,000 installations worldwide, and we've done hundreds of custom development projects for various sort of unique business needs. And sometimes it's even taking our solutions and then customizing those for a specific business requirement or process and or set of compliance regulations, regulatory compliance needs as well. So we've sort of runs the gamut in terms of what we have done and what we continue to do in terms of our progress as an organization. Now, what I want to talk about before it sort of sets the stage, and as we get into the product, you'll see that there's some things that we've done and we've built on SharePoint and Office 365 that aren't part of the out-of-the-box installation of SharePoint. And so what we have learned over the course of time is that in order to build real business solutions on the platform, there needs to be some enhancements. And so we've created this, what we call our Nitro layer. So we've branded it as Nitro. As well, and the concept for us behind this Nitro term is that it really does sort of accelerate the development lifecycle, as well as provide these features that make it a business-rich or a process-rich, as well as feature-rich solution. So the three sort of main pillars here that we focus on is this user experience, the user interface, and through our forms manager as well as portals. So we have a forms manager, allows you to build forms as well as customize those forms, and then portals that will then allow for whether it be internal users, external users, staff, employees, whoever might need to interact with the system, for them to be able to go through those portals and then conduct some type of business through the portal. The workflow and processes is really sort of the really core engine behind all this, is really generating automation into the system and building out that automation through sort of the business process that you have, and not necessarily having you conform to the business process that we baked in, but allowing you the flexibility of creating your own custom workflows. And then business intelligence piece of being able to generate reports that allow you to make business decisions based on the data that exists in the system. Now, as we start this conversation off with asset management, the question first that I want to ask is, why do we want to for one, consider managing assets in a systematic way, and or why a system as opposed to maybe some of the ways that other people do it today. And primarily what we see in the marketplace and in the customers that we are connecting with is that they either have something or they don't, and whatever they have just isn't cutting it. So today I want to just throw up this stat here, is that 70 to 80% of all IT budgets are spent just to keep existing systems running. And if that's the case, and so much of the budget is invested in that, it's really important to understand what's happening with those systems, what's happening with that hardware and or software, and then to be able to really truly understand, sort of from business and analytical standpoint, to understand business requirements and then how we approach the purchase and or management of our assets. So today, this image here really is just to talk about the fact that we have a solution that works on both platforms, Office 365 and SharePoint on premises. And we'll throw out a poll here in just a couple seconds here to ask what you guys are using today. So we find that there's a trend. A lot of our clients today are thinking about and or have moved to Office 365. They might be on 2010, 2013, maybe even thinking about moving to 2016, but there is definitely a shift or a trend in the market to think cloud. And so as we're looking at, from our perspective, and looking at asset life cycles, regardless of the platform you're on, is really still looking to manage this asset life cycle from acquisition to allocation to retirement or disposal. Now, let me throw up a quick poll question. I'd love to get some feedback from you to understand what environment you guys are currently working in today. So whether it be, if you don't have SharePoint that you're using, that's fine. But I think there is another. But there's, really primarily what I want to know is just where you guys are today, what version of SharePoint, or if you are in Office 365. So if you can just take a minute or two to fill this out, that will help, for one, sort of shape the conversation, but also I think it will, in the last few webinars we've done, it pretty much aligns with our experience and conversations that we have with our customers today. Great, we'll just give it about 5 more seconds here, and then we'll go ahead and shut it down. I'll share the poll results with you so you can see what your colleagues are putting up as well and what they're doing. So that didn't share. Let's try that one more time. Here we go. So you can see that there is a fair amount of people on 2013, and then there's Office 365. What we've seen in the last probably 2-3 polls that we've done is that, and this is historically speaking, this is what we see as well. More people on-prem, 2013, and then with this intention to move to Office 365. The last several polls showed that almost neck and neck, and so this group is a little bit different. So we have most people on 2013 and some on Office 365. So let me go ahead and hide this. We'll shut this down, and let's get back to the presentation. So let's talk a little bit about IT asset management, the benefits of actually managing your assets as opposed to maybe not and or a spreadsheet. So traditionally, the types of solutions that we see people using today as a contact that's looking for a method to do this, a solution, they typically tell us they're using spreadsheets. That's very common in almost all conversations we have. We're tracking in spreadsheets, and that's not just small business or even mid-tier, but we even find large enterprises that will have groups that are tracking assets on a spreadsheet, and they don't necessarily have a system or software that does this for them. And spreadsheets are great, and they serve their purpose, but at some point, depending on sort of the where you are in the life cycle of your business, it's not going to be enough. And so these are some, as we go through some benefits and then sort of the whys of the questions we'd ask ourselves and what we want to accomplish in asset management is visibility, understanding what assets we have, of course, sort of a main list or database of assets, but also all of the connective or relevant data points around assets. And we'll get into that in just a second. Also support. So from an IT asset or an ITSM perspective, there's a support component. It could be a full-blown help desk. We do have a help desk solution as well, and that's kind of has been our core product for many years, but we have the IT help desk. But it could just simply be a request management system as well around assets. And so when we're looking at in the context of support and our integrated IT help desk is to really understand how assets are affected by your incident, problem, and change management, as well as requests. So requests for hardware and software. And then there's a compliance component. Not everyone has to do with compliance, at a really sort of sophisticated or deep level. But if we think of some basic things like software compliance, are we out of compliance? We have more software installed than we purchase license, and there's always a risk for some penalty or fine around that. So there's not only just the compliance around software, but also hardware. A lot of our customers today are in certain industries, whether it be in energy industries, whether they be in healthcare, and there might be certain compliance laws that they need to follow, some laws that force them to build those controls into a system. And so we have a story around that as well. And then control is just looking at what's going on within your assets to reduce unwanted spend, as well as control purchase and usage, maybe gain some of those operational expenses back. So from a foundation perspective, and these sort of 4 core questions that you would want to ask is, one is fundamentally, what assets do I have? Where are they being used? Who's using them? If there's software that's installed, what software is that, and is there a valid license? Also, the financial information around these assets also is important. And it might be for the finance team, but also just to understand from an overall asset management perspective, is we have this asset. Did we purchase this asset? Did we lease it? Does it fall under some contract? What did we purchase it for? Is there a contract commitment? Also, what's the maintenance cost around assets? And depreciation schedules. If we have a schedule and we're going to depreciate this over time, when is it fully depreciated, and how does that impact our finances? And then we can use and leverage all this data to do some projections and some planning for future purchases, and or for us to reduce cost overall. We can start looking at things as underutilization and some other sort of data points that will help us to plan financial budgets. And then there's a hard fixed assets, and there's a software license management component. One is really just identifying all the licenses we have and where they're deployed. What do you own? When do they expire? Now, there's a trend in the marketplace that, if your license has expired and you're out of that period and you haven't renewed, there's companies that you'll experience there's fines, etc., associated with that. Types of licenses, what types? Perpetual, trial, freeware, etc. Is it an enterprise license? Are these single individual keys, etc.? Reconciliation, we can compare installations, and we can and we can also allocate licenses out to the proper locations. Compliance, over sort of utilization or under, and overutilization would be out of compliance, and we need to go true up and purchase some additional license. Underutilization can be used to just say, hey, listen, we bought too many, and we need to reduce that count. So as we look at this graphic here, we have here at the top level, and it's not really at the top level, it's really at the core of all this, is hardware asset, software asset, managing what we have in some type of list. Beyond that, though, and you'll see it's not just a list, there's a lot of fields and data that we keep within those records, but also as the connection points between all the other relevant components, whether it be what contracts do we have with these assets. There's a request management component to it, so it could be the full help desk that is integrated with this, or it could be a request for hardware, request for software. We want to track those against, and we can show the history of all that in the hardware or software asset record. Vendor management, well, who did we buy this from? As well as perhaps there's a purchase request module that's available as well here that will allow you to determine, for example, if we are not in compliance and we need to purchase more licenses, we can leverage this purchase request module to initiate a purchase request that can also convert to a PO, and then we can go ahead and buy those software or hardware assets based on that business process. Now this I won't go into because you'll see the features as we go in here, but this will be part of the presentation. You can review the deck. It's really the features and what are all the features that you get with these different components. But we won't spend time talking through this slide, but we'll do that in the actual demo. Now from a business intelligence perspective, this is in the top 3 challenges that people have with their systems today. When we talk to them on the phone, we always ask, what are your top 3 challenges? And almost always number 1 is reporting. That we have very limited reporting. We have maybe some good reporting, but they're not flexible. We can't create ad hoc reports. We can't create reports on the fly. And so our system has a reporting engine in it that's very robust, but it's not limited to using that. You can use Power BI, you can use other reporting tools like Crystal Reports or SQL Reporting or something else of your choice. So that data is easily exportable and you can go and parse that out and generate different reports there. But the different types of reports that someone want to consider in asset management would be around budgets. There's a number of different kind of reports you want to create to understand a lot of sort of answer a lot of budgetary questions. Compliance, purchase versus lease and contracts, discrepancies around unauthorized assets that might be sitting on the network, or even audits to look at, how do we conduct an audit with this system. And then utilization, just optimizing asset utilization, and there's a number of sort of data, some things here we can come back and you can review this on your own of what you might want to ask in order to generate some report, and all those can be generated within our system. We can create a number of dashboards and whatnot. So since I've been talking about this, why we're doing it, and I've introduced all these sort of aspects of asset management, from the actual database of assets and fixed assets and software, as well as contracts and vendors and purchase requests, etc. Let me show you now how this is been organized in our solution, and then how it all ties together to be able to effectively and productively manage your assets. So I'm going to jump out of this, and while I'm jumping out of this, I want to throw up another poll question. And so as I'm transitioning here, this is really just for us trying to understand what you guys are currently using as a solution, just to kind of give us some understanding of your process today. So if you could just go ahead, I can see people already answering away. We can just get some feedback, and then we'll jump into the demo. I'll just give it like another 5 seconds here, and then we'll move on. All right, let me go ahead and shut this down. Sorry to cut anybody off that is wanting to get your vote in there. But all right, let's talk about this for 1 second. So spreadsheets, as I mentioned earlier, this is very common for our customers to be there today as a current solution. Other software, understandable as well that you're using something else. A lot of times someone comes to us and they are using another software, and it might be legacy, who knows what their story is, but since they are using SharePoint or they're on Office 365, they want to figure out whether or not they can leverage that environment, leverage that investment, kind of get things consolidated under a roof for a lot of reasons. There's the Active Directory integration. There's a number of reasons that SharePoint could be a good environment, but it's really about sort of exploring and validating whether or not SharePoint actually can do this, and this is what we're going to talk about today. This network discovery tools, this also comes up in conversation. Someone says, this is where I'm managing all my assets. Now, we're really familiar with network discovery tools. Our solution integrates with network discovery tools, so whether it be System Center, SCCM, Land Sweeper, it could be Del Case. There could be a number of different solutions out there that different people will use for a discovery tool. But the database there is different than what I'm going to show you today. So what we do, we integrate because we want to bring in information from that discovery tool database, but not all of the information, because there's a lot of detail. Let me stop this, hide this result. There's a lot of detailed information that probably wouldn't be relevant to somebody just managing assets on a day-to-day basis. Plus, it doesn't show you some other things like, let me jump out here, things like who's it been assigned to, all the financial history around that, as well as the ability to generate a purchase request, etc. So there's a number of things. Let me see if we can move this out of the way. How come that's showing there? Give me one quick moment here, and let's let me see if I can fix that. Because it looks to me that I'm going to try this one more time, guys. Sorry. I don't want to cancel here. All right, we might just have to deal with that technical glitch right now. So, so as we as I'm going to explain what we're looking at here. So this kind of represents that one graphic I showed you with the various areas from requests, or this could be a help desk itself as well. The assets, software licenses, purchase requests, contracts, and vendors. So this represents all of the various components to our solution. We have them here listed at the top so for ease of access to that particular area. When we get into an area, like for example, we're in assets, we're going to have on the quick launch over here configured links to various areas with relevant to assets. So what I want to start with first of all is just this is our assets solution. We're going to start here with the core of assets, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So in this landing page, we have a number of tools. In Crow Canyon, part of the Nitro platform, we have these things like tiles and dials. We have workflow manager. We have a forms manager. We have a bunch of utilities that allow us to make up this system. But let me go right into the crux of this. And so we're just going to go to the asset list. So this is standard SharePoint. We have a list here of assets, and we have and in this list of assets we have a number of fields, and so there's a whole bunch of them here. When I scroll across, we can consolidate that up and shorten up the view, but we can go in here and we can start searching and sorting. So if it's by category, we can say, let's show me all computer equipment, and then we can drill down computers by manufacturer, so over here by make, so you can start drilling. I can drill down to vendor, or by department, by location. So we can do all that here, and that's great. There's also a search function where there's an advanced search here. We can either do we'll talk about barcoding in one moment, but we can go ahead and do the same type of search here, where we can say, let's go ahead and track if we want to track assets by department and by IT, and it's going to give us a filter view of all the assets that are assigned out to the IT department. And then I'll just go ahead and briefly address this, and we'll talk about barcoding later. But we do have a barcoding component. You can, regardless of the reader you have, whether it be an app on your mobile device or a reader that would be USB or Bluetooth type reader. It doesn't really matter. It's really, it's agnostic to the type of device you use, but we can read in and search. So if you're going and servicing some piece of equipment, you can hit the asset tag, bring up the record right here, jump into the record, and start doing whatever work you need to do on that, and or looking at all the data that's there. Let me go ahead and click on, since we're here already, I can go back to the main list, but let me just click on this asset record and show you what that looks like. And so when we are looking at assets, every organization that we talk to, there are some commonalities in terms of the structure of the data they want to collect. But also there's organizations that have different requirements. And so around those requirements, they might say, well, we have different groups that manage this, so it's great. We can create custom views over here. We can, that would assign out assets to groups to manage. So there's a number of things we can do in terms of the flexibility of this solution. But a lot of times it's like something as simple as we want to collect some different data. So we have some different fields. So in our form manager, this thing is completely customizable by you. It's a complete 100% no code solution. There is an admin utility in our forms manager for you to be able to customize this. But as we look at this, and I want to consider those that are using your discovery tool for asset management, consider some of the things that exist in this that may, that might make things easier for you to manage your assets. This is sort of the overall sort of metadata around that, general information around the asset. And as we talk about discovery tools and we talk about our integration, this whole database can be populated from a discovery tool, can be populated from an Excel spreadsheet, can be populated if you have another system you use and there's an export feature there. We can get that information into this solution as well. And then if there's for example, discovery tool, we can do an ongoing sync. So any net new data, any net new information, there could be a communication back and forth. But so now let's go into this, beyond this, this asset info tab, we have these other tabs across the top. And so things like location and owner, who's it been assigned to and what department, where is it exactly located? So, you might want to build this out and have a little more sophistication in terms of being able to identify where it's at, but it might be sitting in a data center in a rack or in a closet in some rack. The history and finance information around that. When was it purchased? What's the depreciation schedule? What is the type of depreciation method used, which is a common, straight line depreciation? But what was the original invoice or PO number? Current value, what did we buy it for? All this information can then be used to start generating some financial reports and planning as well. So understanding the data from the data decommissioning, we want to look at all assets that are going to be decommissioned in the month of August, and so we can go ahead and understand what that financial impact is going to be on our budget. An image, for example, what does this exactly look like? If you went out and you got some type of request to go service this piece of equipment, you get out there and you're like, wait a minute, this does not look like the same thing here in the image. Obviously, if the data is not good and the image is not right, that's fine, but at least it would give your technician the ability to determine, like, this is not the right piece of machine. Let's validate that either by checking something else within the asset and making sure that you're working on the right one. Now, this related items tab is where a lot of the magic happens within our system. So we have created a solution that allows us to connect things cross lists, cross libraries, cross sites. So in sort of SharePoint and Office 365 and SharePoint Online, this data structure exists. So lists, libraries, documents sit in a library, and then lists contain these items. And so we want to bring those all together as opposed to having to jump all over the place and find this data. So the way we do that is through this utility we have called it's an associated items web part. And so you can see here now, say if this was an IT help desk, this is called request in this demo, but if this was our IT help desk, it is integrated with our IT help desk, this would be all ticket history. So all tickets that have come in, whether they be requests or incidents, as well as perhaps problems and change management, if that's if that was the product that you were using of ours, then all that history will be here. So you have a full view of all of the history of issues and work that's been done on it. A manual, there's a simple document that you can attach. All of the software that's installed on this, and for some reason we haven't populated the data around the license key, but it could be an enterprise key or it could be an individual license, so we could keep track of that. These are just configured views, so it could be just simplify this and say what software, what version of the software is installed on this machine. Then we have contracts, all the associated contracts. This falls under this Dell Master Lease Agreement. Also, there's a warranty. And so if I was looking to service this and someone called, there was a problem about this, or emailed in or sent in a form, then I know that this is something that I would probably generally fall under warranty. I could come in and validate really quickly that yes, it's still an active warranty you see here, and that we can go ahead and send that in for service. So then there's a purchase order. So if there was the original PO, this is not a laptop as you saw in that image, is a a mini tower, but there would be, here's the original purchase order that was associated with this as well. So if we needed to reference that for some reason, or just from financial reporting perspective, that data is here attached to that as well. Now let's go back to the top here on these tabs. So we have all this relationships between these other components to the system. Support is really, and perhaps if you're organized, if I were to organize this, I might even take all those requests and maybe help desk tickets and pull that over into this support section, because now I can see what are all the tasks that have been performed on this piece of equipment, who did it, and then again, if I were to move that over under support, which seems logical, is I could also see all of the history of incidents or requests that have come in. Now, this check in, check out tab, this right here, there is no history in check in, check out because it's been assigned out to someone as a permanent assignment. But the check in, check out feature is really, for us as we built it and based on other requests from customers in the past, was that this is for temporary assignment. There's a piece of equipment that goes out for maybe an event. There's a projector, maybe a loaner laptop, or a mobile phone that's a loaner. and or just equipment that's going to go out to some event. So it could be a bunch of pieces of equipment, and so we want to check those out, and we want to make sure that we get them back as well. And so since they're not checked out, they can be checked out to an individual, but they're not checked out long term. They'll have an expected check-in date, and then we can trigger some alerts and notifications on this check-in date, so we can send something out to somebody ahead of time. Hey, this is due tomorrow, I need it back, or it's overdue, I need it back. And then of course, if it is overdue, you might want to even plug in another notification going out to one of your technicians or staff members to say, go fetch this, it's overdue. And then on the back end here, we have this one tab. We are looking at a computer, and there is a computer tab that exists up there. And so we have this concept of, and I'm not sure if it's configured in this demo, but let me just give it a quick shot. But we have dynamic tabbing. There's also dynamic fields in here. So based on certain selections in these drop downs, then in this case, let's just go ahead and try it out. If it works, it works. Nope, it's not going to work. It's not configured here. But this is a standard configuration. So based on the selection of asset category, then this pops up dynamically. That way you can extend this out with a number of different categories that are associated, or tabs that are associated with categories. So if it was a computer, you have some information about the computer. If you have a phone, then maybe we can come and collect some more information about the phone. What plan is it on? How much disk or space is on that phone, etc. So it allows you the flexibility of having dynamic tabs showing up based on these selections, as well as fields in this form, having those be dynamic based on your selection in this form. So that said, that's the form. Now, and all the data that we collect, and hopefully those that are using discovery tools today to manage assets, you can see that there's a number of data points here and connections to some other components that that might not be available there in your discovery tool. What I want to do is kind of dive a little bit deeper into into some of these related items. So assets being the core fundamental thing that we're trying to accomplish here, and in managing those, these relationships between other items also are important in this solution. And that, for example, assets and as fixed assets and software assets. Let's go ahead and just show you an example. So we know that we have Office 10 installed on this machine, and so if I want, I can go over to software assets. I can find those in a list of asset or software that we have. I could, if I was in here and I wanted to, we'll just say if I wanted to check in and see some information, whatever that might be about this this piece of software, we can go directly over to the software asset record. This is it. I can link there, or I can go directly to the software assets list and I can pull up that as well. And we'll come back to this view in just one second. But if I look at where this has been installed, I can see it's installed on 5 machines, and there's that Dell Vostro that we were just looking at. So it is installed on that, but I can see it's installed on all these other machines as well. We have an install count of 5. Now, if I go back to this sort of home tab here, you can see the status is it's underutilized. So we have underutilization, and where does that come from? So automatically that status is going to be populated based on the install and the delta between the purchase count. And so we purchased 20, we've installed 5, hence we're underutilized. So if you need to generate some report and look at software that's underutilized, when we can use those data points within software to do that. Now if we go, let's go back to that software list again. We can see here in this list that we're calculating some of the fields within the software to also show this status here. So we've also color coded it. So when we're underutilized and we've purchased more than we're using, then we can quickly look at the status. So we can filter on the status if we just want to look at where we're out of compliance. And we're out of compliance, of course, because we have more installed. Say, for example, Discovery Tool came back, we synced up, and there is 100 licenses that we found on the network, and that we show only a purchase count of 85, then it will trigger this as out of compliance. We can set an alert that goes out to someone saying we're out of compliance. So maybe you might want to do some research. There might be some unauthorized devices on your network, and you might want to reconcile that. But and so this is a quick view that will show us a compliance type report. We've done custom compliance reports as well, but generally speaking, this is a quick view to understand the status of around utilization of software assets. Now, when we're looking at these assets and software, let's go back now to this Delvostro, and I'm going to pick on that one for a while here, so you might get sick of it by the end of this presentation, but I want to go back and show the relationships between not just assets and the software that's installed on that, and the fact that we can track the software, what we have, what we purchase, and where are they installed, but also these other items. For example, contracts. So from now the contract management solution in this product is really more a contract renewal, as well as, of course, understanding what contracts we have, what they are, but there's really, on a management side, is understanding what they are, when they expire, and what are the renewal options. So this falls under a Dell Master Lease Agreement. So there is some data points here that shows some of the field values within the contract record, but I'm going to just go click on it, because then you'll see some of these same fields come up in the form. Because I want to show you, in the context of contract management, is again, it's more than just having a list. It's more than just having the fact, an item that says we have this Dell Master Lease Agreement. It's about taking advantage of automation and driving some of that automation in terms of business process and workflow. So we have the contract information here that includes a couple key things. One is a responsible party, and then the other is the expiration date. There's also the renewal options allow auto renewal, so there's some workflow that can be done around that, but primarily we have an expiration date and we have a responsible party. So if it's important for us to manage and maintain these contracts, whether it be a warranty, lease agreement, service agreement, whatever type of contract it is, we want to make sure that we're managing this end date. So when the end date is coming, we can create a workflow to alert this person, which happens to be me, Jeff Priest, say 90, 60, 30, or in sequence, all of those 90, 60, and 30 days in advance of the expiration date to let me know, for example, that this contract is coming up for either renewal, or in this case, it's going to send me a message saying it's set for auto renewal, and it could say something, it's set for auto renewal, no action required. I can still take action if I want, but generally it's at least I get notified, I know what's going on and what it's about. But if it wasn't set for auto renewal, then I'm going to get notified, and then I can come in here, I can see what are my renewal options, and then there's a drop down menu on this field. Let me just I'll go and I'll show you here. So then there's a number of different options. I can come in and manage this, and then from once we decide as we're going through the renewal process, and this could be up front as well, but then there's this approval component to that. Once this is going up for renewal, or it's even, if it's coming, there's a change to a contract, is to create the workflow around approvals. So it could be based on department, it could be based on amount, could be based on type, but we can create a number of different workflows or approval definitions to apply to any type of business process. So these are, you can see there's different drop downs and check boxes and whatnot here, and whether or not this is the master contract or some subcontract to another. On the finance side, we have the ability to then track, the PO. Now, the PO number can come from our system. This can come from, if you have a financial system that generates a PO today, this can be populated from that database. What are the payment terms, currency type? We deal with a lot of global organizations, and they have different contracts with different currency types. Whether it be some other currency type we want to track here. The contract documents. This is an actual link to the document. If we need to go back and reference that document, look at the terms and reevaluate that, that's available. Milestones. So not all contracts have milestones, but it's very common in conversations we have, as well as some other solutions that exist out there, is to some contracts will have milestones, maybe some service contracts, or even payment milestones. So there might be a payment up front, midstream payment, final payment. So we can track all those milestones here. Who's responsible for it? Has it been completed? Is it not? So we can track both the deliverable around the service as well as payment. This association, let's get out of here. The associations here is what software, and you can see we can drag and drop, but what software is, I think that kicked me out of, let's go back to that Dell Master Lease Agreement. I think I went two links back. So what software or hardware is associated with this contract? In this case, this Dell Master Lease Agreement has these pieces of equipment fall under that lease agreement, and then there's some software that is associated with that as well. And then email history. There is an email component. You can see it up here in the ribbon. So you can email out to anybody in the organization and have communication back and forth about this asset, and we can capture all that email communication here in a full history. And so the way we do that is there is a unique identifier here. This contract ID here is 1. So whatever that unique identifier is that when we send out from this email template, that's already plugged in the subject line. Any notifications or alerts, etc., that go out as well will have that unique identifier in the subject line. As long as somebody replies to it, it will then come and append to this email history list. And then just basic notes. So whatever type of notes you want to capture on that contract record. So as we're going through this, and we have about 15 minutes left, I want to make sure I cover everything and then leave time for questions at the end. So we'll probably see if we can leave at least 8 to 10 minutes for questions. So we'll try to go through the rest of this fairly quickly and efficiently. So there's contracts. Now in the contract, this contract has been associated with a vendor. So in this case, this contract is a Dell lease agreement, and it's associated with a vendor. So I can jump right over and I say, all right, well, I need to renew this. I need to go ahead and reach out to my contact at Dell, and I need to then be able to take some action on it. But I do need to reach out, or before I even renew this, I want to do an evaluation of all the contracts we have with this vendor, our spend with this vendor, and I do that because maybe it puts me in a better position for negotiation, or perhaps I also want to take a look at all of the issues that I've had around assets with this vendor, and perhaps maybe even consider a vendor change. So we can get all that information from the system. As you can see, we have requests and incidents, we have contracts, we have assets, and all those things are connected. So we can see from this vendor Dell what are all the assets that we have that we've purchased from Dell, both software and hardware, and then the types and contracts too. What contracts do we have with Dell? And so here's a couple contracts here. So we have this whole holistic or 360-degree view of all things related sort of to each other in the system. And we also have this concept of purchase catalog. So you can also, if you have certain items that you have with a vendor that you've authorized for purchase, then you can, and we have this purchase request system, we'll jump into that one sec, but we have the ability to generate and create catalogs around that. So you can say, well, here are all our authorized items. So if somebody were to create a purchase request and they were to select Dell as a vendor, they could go through the catalog and they could choose an item that they'd want to purchase. So now let's just go, since we're talking about purchasing, it's a good segue into how purchase requests can also become an integral part of this solution. So with purchase requests, the goal is just, as it pertains to assets, is to allow some of the ability to, whether it's a new asset, maybe there's a new hire, and there's some set of equipment that needs to be, as well as software that needs to be procured for that new hire. It's not in stock today, so we can open up a purchase request, get that out for approval, and once we get approval, then those items can be purchased. And once we purchase those items, we can also, when they've arrived on shipping, our shipping dock, we can also convert those items to assets from the actual purchase order. So there is a process behind this, so we can track, give someone the ability to open up a purchase rec and then go through its approval process based on whatever your approval process would be. So we can open that up, we can, there's a cover sheet. Is it budgeted? Where's the budget coming from? What department? And in the purchase request details as well, we can go ahead and have a number of line items, and this is where we have this catalog, so we can choose from the vendor. This form might be a little bit different for you, so you might want to just leave it open and not use the catalog component of it, and so you just allow people to sort of hand key in the information that of the item that they're going to purchase. But also tracking of accounting codes or GL codes would be part of that. So once we fill this all out, submit it, send it out for approval, then we have a number of there's the approval process that will take place. And again, most of our clients today come and they like this concept. Sometimes they actually have a financial system that generates a PO, but they don't have that upfront request component. And so they will say, well, we're not going to use the PO part, but we do want to use the purchase rec to submit purchase requisitions. So, and because we need those approved, once we get those approved, then we'll go on the back end and submit for a PO with somebody on the finance team. So there's various ways in which people will use our solution. One of the things too I want to share, as we're kind of coming to a close here, is this front end. This is a sample of a portal. There's many sort of design options, and there's customization around the portal that can be done: branding, colors, background images, etc. And so, but this is just a sample of a portal. If somebody was to come in and they wanted to request hardware or software, there's a problem, there's repair. We use this both as a general request management portal, but also our IT help desk. Most of our solutions will have a portal of this type, but of course it's geared towards different types of requests. And so if I open this up, you'll see that there's a basic form. And behind that form, it's all AD integrated, so it's going to capture the user. They can just fill out a couple pieces of information. They can then input some description, upload some files, whatever they need to do. Once they submit that, there's a number of notifications that will kick off saying we've received your request. We'll be working on it. So at creation, assignment, resolution, closure, or fulfillment, then they'll get some notifications. But they also can come in here and just simply and quickly look to see what's the status. It's in progress. It's been assigned to someone. If that's not enough information and they need to maybe input some other information that they forgot the first time, they can open that up and they can go ahead and submit some information here in this dialog box down here. So it'll be basically a threaded conversation back and forth to a staff member. And then there's a KB or a knowledge base. If there's some documentation around different assets and or installation process docs, etc., you can populate that in here as well. Those are really meant for end user requests. Could even be that sometimes we have clients that have equipment, but that equipment is actually sent out to a client's site, and so they're taking in requests and managing assets remotely using this type of system, and those requests come from external, their clients, and so we have an external portal as well as a customer portal that somebody outside of your AD can come in and log those requests. So many different uses for this solution. Now, what I want to do as well is just kind of show real quick is that there are you can create all these different reports. We have a pretty robust engine, so there's a number of dashboards that you can build. You can see here that you can look at it from the context of hardware, software, contracts, purchase requests, purchase orders, requests, and you can create, there's dashboards created out of the box, but you can create your own custom reports. You can come in, you can also do a deeper dive and maybe modify and change these reports as well. So there's a lot of reporting capabilities here in the solution. So, but again, what I'm trying to do here is give you an overview, understanding. Obviously, we're not having any sort of personal interaction, allow you to ask questions that we're going through here, but this is a very common demo for us to do. But when we do an actual demo, we get a lot deeper into the features and functionality as they are relevant to your business needs. And so at this stage right here, as we got about 7 minutes left, I want to, for one, is just to kind of wrap up the demo and then state the fact that we're more than willing and would be happy to do a one-on-one demo so we can dive deeper into the solution. And you know, we hit the highlights. You can see sort of from an overview perspective. There's a lot going on here, but there's also a lot of other things that I haven't been able to show in terms of the back-end, no-code, admin capabilities. So this is an example of on-prem. We have an Office 365 solution that looks exactly like this. The back-end architecture is a little bit different. We use the app model there as opposed to a sort of a web part model here with our Nitro platform, or our layer, excuse me. But I'd love to show you more details on that. Now let's go ahead and stop and let's take a look at you know, if there are any questions. I haven't been able to take a look at. I don't know if this is showing on my screen here, but Scott, can I hand this over to you and we can kind of go? It looks like there's a number of questions that have been asked. Can we go through those?
Yeah, I'm here. Do you hear me? Yes, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we had a few good questions there, and it shows a lot of interest. And as Jeff said, we can always dive down deeper into your particular requirements, because everybody's different, their asset needs, the size of the organization, the type of industry, what they have in place already. One question that came up is integration with a help desk. Well, in some sense, the request management system is part of the assets enterprise version, and it acts like a help desk. But if you want a more full-fledged IT help desk, we have that also. We have a standard, professional, and premium versions, and all of them integrate completely with this asset management program. So from the ticket, you can have, you know, IT help desk ticket, you can have a link to an asset. From the asset, you can see all related tickets that have gone on, all maintenance, all break fix issues, all requests, those kind of things. So it makes them a more comprehensive system. So we sell it kind of both ways. One is the asset by itself, one is IT help desk by itself, but kind of more often is the two together. And then as far as asset management goes, we also can integrate with a network discovery tool, which is something that, you know, equipment doesn't quite have. Equipment tracking is not there, but IT assets certainly can be discovered by SCCM. Landsweeper provides a tool. There's Dell Case. There's other ones out there that gather the information about each asset, intimate details, and then our asset program acts as a wrapper around that and provides the necessary details for management, such as when it was purchased, who used it, what support tickets there have been, what contracts are renewed, what vendors, and we can run reports such as, you know, how many of this kind of asset do we have, which ones are 3 years old, which ones are over 5,000. I mean, any kind of report you want, it all can be done. So that you can use assets alone, you can use it with IT help desk, our IT help desk, or you can use it with network discovery tools. There's all kinds of ways to make it really fit the needs of your organization and provide the efficiency and value that's possible in this. Now, Jeff's been saying this is an Office 365 and SharePoint 20, well, on premises 2010 we do have, but also 2013, 2016. So it's available in all those platforms, and also the ability there is to use those programs to the maximum ability is what you want to aim for here. Now, as far as specific questions, what else we had here? Gathering the host name, yeah, we talked about that, getting from a network discovery tool, maintenance ticket integration, different versions it works on. So I think we're pretty good. I think the next step is to, if anyone's further interested, to contact us. Jeff, why don't you get up the last slide of our contact information. We also have a number of blogs, and another thing is we're at the shows. We're going to be at San Francisco SB TechCon in early December, as well as the SharePoint Fest in Chicago. We are which is also early December. We are going to be at we have been at a number of SharePoint Saturdays, and we'll continue to be at a number of SharePoint Saturdays. We support the community, the SharePoint and Office research community on that. We're doing a lot of new development. We got a lot of things, you know, coming out of the hopper here, you might say, out of the oven, whatever. So it's very exciting, a lot of changes, especially in Office 365 with Flow and Power Apps and Power BI. So really moving in a good direction, and hopefully we can meet your needs, not only for asset management and IT help desk. We have a number of other programs. We have the onboarding, we have customer support, we have contract management by itself, facilities and equipment management, security access requests, and we do a number of custom projects in the Office 365 and SharePoint space, such as a claims management program for insurance company, or a quote generator, or a document management system, or intranets, or also the critical essential assets for nuclear power plants. So we've been doing a lot in electricity and gas compliance spaces where they need to keep detailed records of each asset, who has access to it, who's trained on it. So a number of many projects, many types of applications and ways to use Office 365 and SharePoint in very creative, useful, and productive ways. So I think that's about it. You've got the slide up. You might want to go full
Yeah.
screen with that so they can see it better. Right now it's on the other display.
Oh, sorry. I sometimes
Oh yeah, I can still read it. It's just better,
let's
larger.
let's try this one more time here.
It just switched displays, I think.
There we go. This should.
There we go. Yes.
There we go.
So you can follow us on Twitter. You go to LinkedIn. Blogs. Of course, the blogs have a lot of interesting articles. And contact Jeff or myself through sales or phone number. How about the phone number? Is that there?
It's not. It's on our website, and so you can easily find it there. Now, one of the things, there was one question here. I don't know if you addressed this, but the question was, does it show a host name on the computers? Now, the reason I want to answer this real quick is we can show any information. We can show any data within the asset record. That data could come from you and manual input, come from a synchronization with a database, like your discovery tool. So there's a lot of flexibility in this solution. So hopefully, as we got into this as an intro, you guys at least saw something that was interesting, that it was educational, and that you would reach back out. I encourage you to reach back out to us. We'll follow up with some email communication as well, but to reach back out for a one-on-one demo, and we can talk more specifically about your asset requirement needs. Now, I wanted to thank you all for joining. We'll go ahead and end at this time, but we look forward to connecting with you sometime shortly in the future. Thank you.